Welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified coffee enthusiast. Whether we're catching up with friends, studying for a big exam, or grounding with a little caffeinated cozy goodness, coffee brings us together, it powers us up, and it gives us a reason to sit down and connect. Each week, I'll be sitting down with an inspiring entrepreneur to discuss their journey towards building successful businesses and the mental wellness tools they use to alleviate burnout. But first, let's take a sip of something warm and comforting, shall we? Are you in the mood for some amazing Mexican-inspired food and coffee? Then head over to Chismosa's Cafe in West Covina. Chef Alan's cooking is inspired by his Mexican-American roots, and the coffee is just as delicious. It's the perfect place to relax and have some quality conversations with friends and colleagues. So come on down to Chismosa's Cafe and let's talk about mental health over a cup of coffee and some amazing food. Welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist, and today we're filming our Mother's Day episode. This episode is dedicated to all of our hardworking mothers, and I'm also dedicating this episode to my son, Dominic, who I do everything for, who inspires me and motivates me to continue going every day. As a mother and mental health professional who runs my own private practice and hosts this podcast, I know firsthand the challenges of juggling multiple roles. In this episode, I'm going to share my experiences and offer practical tips and advice for other female mental health professionals and entrepreneurs who are struggling to juggle both roles. First, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this podcast episode, I want to share a little bit about myself and my journey. So, as many of you have already seen, I've talked a little bit about who I am in my other episodes with my other colleagues, but in this episode, I'm going to really be transparent and vulnerable about my journey. So, first of all, the reason why I chose the guest for season one is I've personally worked and I have a very intimate relationship with all these guests. So, like I've mentioned, Dr. Ben is a chiropractor that I saw throughout my pregnancy. He helped me achieve the natural birth that I wanted, and I continue to still work with him. My colleague Noemi, who's been a dear friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who I turn to for support on a daily basis. Dr. Carolina is somebody who I personally refer to as far as clients, and she works with some of my family members as well. And Tiffany. So, Tiffany is also a great colleague of mine. She's somebody I've talked about stress with, motherhood. So, all of these guests have a dear place in my heart. I've worked with them personally and have really enjoyed them being on this season. So, my journey as an entrepreneur started, I believe, when I was a young child. I always thought that I became an entrepreneur when I started my private practice, and that's not the case. So both my parents are immigrants from Mexico, and both are entrepreneurs. So at a young age, I saw what it was like to be in a family where both my parents owned their businesses and they instilled that working hard mentality. So some of the youngest memories go back to being age 6 years old and watching my parents working and developing their business. My dad actually has an airplane part business and from since then has opened up other businesses, and my mom has been his teammate. And so I was taken from a young age to a lot of these business meetings and events with them. And so I would say my entrepreneurship journey started at approximately, I would say, age 6. And everything from going to the swap meet and my dad having to sell lemons or oranges to make a little extra money, because I did grow up in poverty. So I believe that from a very young age, I've had this mentality of always going and always working. So when I decided to enter the field of mental health, I was in high school. So at first, I actually wanted to work with children. I loved kids, and I slowly realized as I entered my bachelor's program, that was not the case. So I did do some internships working with children, but quickly realized I wanted to work with adults, young working professionals. It's something that I believe I can personally relate to. Seeing some of, especially the BIPOC community, right? I see my own, struggles, and I've wanted to uplift those who were going through the same challenges. So I got my master's in, a licensed marriage and family therapist, did multiple internships. So I worked in a foster care agency. I worked community mental health. I worked at a substance abuse clinic. I worked at an eating disorder facility. So I really took the time to see what population do I really want to work with, and that actually was instilled by my father. My father, I was getting my bachelor's in psychology, and I still remember, make sure that you take on every opportunity that you can. Take on all the internships because I want you to make sure that you know what route you're going to take this career. Because when I first told my family I was going to go into the mental health field, it's not that it wasn't taken great, but my father envisioned me being a dentist, a doctor. So I really had to, I said, no, that it doesn't resonate with me. So I decided I wanted to be a therapist. And I really, even though, there was some pushback, I still persevered and I got my bachelor's and then I got my master's. Just because of me being a child and my parents always working, I said, you know what? I'll do all these internships, but I want to make sure that when I start my family, that my child gets a different experience. My parents did the best they could, coming into the States. But I said, you know what? I have a lot of privilege. And I want to make sure that when my son or when my child is born, that I'm able to give him that unconditional love and time that maybe sometimes I might have needed when I was younger because my parents were always working. So I dedicated a lot of my time in building my practice. I got married and I told my husband, I don't feel comfortable starting a family until this business is established. So I got married and I still waited. So I had my son when I was 30 years old. My mom had me when I was 21. So that was huge that there was that gap because I was like, I really want to build my practice. So I built my practice here in Whittier, California, and I feel like that's when I was like, okay, it's time. So I had my son and I felt like I was successful. I was like, I felt successful in my practice and what I did, had a full caseload. And then I had my son and I've been able to, I feel lucky that I've been able to have that time with him. I have the flexibility in my schedule now to where I can attend his little events while also work and, be the businesswoman that I really enjoy being. So it's still a struggle in having to balance being a wife, being a mother, being an entrepreneur. But I can at least say that I feel somewhat successful right now in my business. Now we're starting a podcast. And that's an area where I feel that I'm learning to be a beginner again. So I provide private practice consultation for colleagues and because I feel so secure in that I know what I'm doing. So now I'm going into the world of becoming a podcaster and trying to spread the word to our BIPOC community around mental health, alternative healing methods, and entrepreneurship. And my own imposter syndrome has come up. The rides home, I tend to debrief with my team around the episodes, and I tend to be so hard on myself just because this is the first time I'm doing anything like this. So I'm learning to be in front of a camera. I'm learning to have people watch me as I'm talking about these topics. This is the first episode I'm doing solo, but I usually have a guest with me. I have just lots going on, and it's so different because I'm learning to work through being seen. That's something that, as a therapist, I see I do a lot of individual work. This is the first time where my audience, is seeing me at my most transparent, my most raw, my most authentic, and that's so uncomfortable. But I think it's important for me to be able to talk about that because I often get, whether it's colleagues, whether it's my team, whether it's even some family members, I feel like they think that I have it all together and I don't. I definitely don't. I struggle with balancing different roles. When I became a mother, I noticed it even more because mom guilt is a real thing. I have to leave, when I record these episodes, I have to leave my son. I have to leave, quality time that I can be having with him. However, this is something that is really important to me, and which is why I'm able to kind of challenge that negative self-talk that you're leaving him, but because this is also not only for, it's for his future. I want him to know that the sky's the limit. I don't want him to ever feel that he needs to stop himself from doing something that he loves. I never want him to know that he needs to stop himself from doing something that he loves because he doesn't feel that he has that support. It's something my husband and I talk about every day. So I hope that as my audience, you can see that I hope this is maybe the message that, what if you guys are struggling in doing something that you might find scary, that you feel nervous to do, that I don't have anybody rooting for me. I hope that you see me and you see that somebody that is pushing you to do it. Um, and I think going back to motherhood, it's really changed me in that before I had my son, I took on all these projects because that's what I was taught. I saw him taking on, my mom and my dad saw him taking on all these projects, working themselves, 7 days out of the week. And so, you know what? I took on that. That's my multi generational trauma, taking on projects, taking on different things, even if maybe they didn't serve me. I still did it. I still did it because I was taught you have to work. You work and you just have to provide. And when I had my son, that really didn't resonate with me anymore. I said, I need boundaries in my life. And so anytime I take on a project such as this, I say, how is this serving me? Because this is going to take time away from my son. So I think motherhood has taught me how to set boundaries, has taught me to be intentional in choosing projects that are going to not only benefit, myself, they're going to benefit my team that I work closely with, and they're going to benefit my family and the community. So motherhood has changed me in so many ways. I'm more vulnerable. I'm more empathetic. I feel that my son has taught me patience. Having a toddler is not easy. So also, I'm, working on breaking multi-generational trauma, working on choosing a different parenting style. And that means being patient. And I'm trying to use that patience now in my journey of being a podcaster, in that this is going to take time. This is going to take patience, that I do need to, once again, going back to that, I need to be a beginner. My inner child deserves that, to be able to be a beginner, and so that I can model that for my son, that, hey, just because this feels weird and it feels like I'm failing, you're not. You took the first step to take on this project, that you've got this, like, and you have me to back you up. You have your father to back you up. And even if you make those mistakes, we're here and we see you. And those are things that I'm working on. Not only I'm working on breaking that multi-generational trauma for him, but also for myself. Because I have younger parts of me who are still working through that. I've been in therapy. I've done my own EMDR therapy to work through some of those wounds that they still pop up, but it's been a journey for me, because I have to definitely look inside and be like, wow, well, where is this coming from? Why is me starting this podcast such a trigger for me? Well, I'm not used to being seen. I'm not used to being in the spotlight. I've always been, I consider myself an extrovert, but I have an introverted side to myself too. So this is really, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. My producer, Kai, sent me a video the other day, and I turn to it all the time now because I'm literally climbing this mountain and I'm cringing as I'm getting ready to, or preparing for every episode, as her and I are talking late in the evenings about the episode and what I'm going to say, and I'm cringing. I feel my body tensing. I feel like, even disassociating a little bit because this is like so new to me. And I'm like, well, and she keeps saying, we're on Cringe Mountain. We're gonna keep climbing and we're going until we get to Cool Land. Because you can't get to Cool Land without going on Cringe Mountain. So I keep reminding myself, and I've been actually using that and then with my clients. And I don't know, it resonates because I think we all feel that. Feel that we all feel being on Cringe Mountain, but we want to get off of it. And I think that having a good support system that says, no, we see you, keep going. And I feel like I've been able to build my community. I have such amazing colleagues. I have a really great team who is always here. I wish you guys can see them. They're always here rooting for me, even when I mess up. They're always here, you know, they're like the little I need to keep them in my pocket. So as I'm driving home and I'm telling myself you didn't do enough, that I am. So I have a great community. My husband has supported me. He continues to encourage me. My family, now that they're seeing kind of the videos that I'm posting on social media, I went to my son had his birthday, and my family, who therapy's a stigma. They're like, wow, like what you're doing, it's really cool. It's like really inspiring. Keep doing it. And I'm over here like, what are you guys seeing? Like, I don't know. And the fact, and I think that man, so one of the things that I'm working through with my imposter syndrome is just saying thank you. Thank you, because it's easy to just be like, no, those are just like little videos on social media. No, like these are really big things that as a team we're doing, right? We're putting out content that our community really deserves to hear. We're interviewing, people who are experts in the field. We're also interviewing alternative healing practitioners who I know my family didn't know about, a chiropractor, a naturopathic doctor. We didn't talk about that. We went to a conventional medicine doctor. So that's also one of the reasons why I decided to start this podcast, is to shed light on all these other healers, because as a therapist, I can't do it all. Being able to share with our community, hey, like there's these resources out there. There's people that look like us and are willing to help you. Those are some of the things that I have to continue to remind myself, that the mission is bigger than my fear. I've mentioned it in other episodes, but comparison is the killer of dreams. And I'm going to try really, really hard to not let this comparison and fear um, steer me away from giving you, my community, the content that you deserve. I hope that that sheds some light that I don't have it all together. It's a constant struggle. Every day that I wake up, I have to remind myself, right? Like I say some positive affirmations. I go to the gym to release the tension that's in my body, to let some of that energy out. So there are things that I'm doing to help me work through this. I can't do this alone, but it doesn't mean that it's not a struggle. Not something that that it's not something that comes naturally or easy to me. I don't give up. I saw within my family my grandmother who immigrated with 8 children to the States, and I said, "You know what? She's passed away, but she's been one of my role models." I'm like, if she did it with 8 children as a single mother, like, how can I not do this? And this is for her, right? She came to the States wanting a better future for herself and her family, and now her grandchildren. So this is for her too. My grandparents on my father's side, I'm not as close to them, but them as well. They immigrated to the States. So I think about these. My grandmother has become an EMDR. We call it like a resource figure. And my grandmother's been my protector figure and my nurturing and wiser figure. So she's somebody I talk to. And I ask when I'm struggling, and I'm like, Grandma, just show me a sign. And I do. And she always ends up somehow communicating to me. So she's somebody that turn to spiritually to help me get through this. Because I know if she was here now, I know that she'd be really proud. She'd be like, ay, mija, ¿qué estás haciendo? Or, estoy muy orgullosa de ti. I wish I would have, what else would she say? She was sassy, but I think that's what got her through so many different things. So She I've used some of the things that she's taught me as a mother. She had to make really hard decisions for her family, and I've learned from that too. She's long conversations with her before she passed away that I still hold dear to my heart, and that I still, I keep in mind as I'm doing and as I'm doing things like this podcast, my private practice. As you can all see, I come from a line of entrepreneurs, even if they didn't have a business background or a business degree. I think that's also something I want our viewers to know is that you don't have to have an MBA or this, fancy degree to pursue your dreams. My father, my mother, they're high school graduates. My grandma went to I think she went up to maybe 2nd grade, if that, and they were all entrepreneurs, succe you know, successful in their own ways, and I hope that this, I do have my license, I have my master's, but a lot of my entrepreneurship has been learning from real life experiences. I think that's what my family has learned from like just continuing to climb Cringe Mountain and finally making it down to Cool Land, right? Like you just have to keep going. Let's talk about women. So I've been lucky enough to surround myself with they're not only entrepreneurs, but strong women of color who I tend to turn to when I need support. So my team are BIPOC individuals who are passionate about the work that they're doing. I see them every single day, taking an extra class, taking another project because they want to better themselves in their career. And I wish you guys can see them. They inspire me to continue doing this. They teach me something new every day. So because I think I've surrounded myself with other BIPOC individuals, I think that's helped me work through this. Um, so we have my team here, but I also have other colleagues and friends who are all people of color who, they'll shed some advice. A lot of our guests are people of color who, with every episode, I learn something new from them, right? So, because these are people that are close to my heart. I learn something new every day, and we debrief after our episodes or after I'm having a hard day. I give them a call and we talk about it. And um, our audience will hear, right? Like, as being a Latina, I come from a collectivistic culture. We need that community to uplift us and to get through this. And I don't know, the universe has given me this gift of having this great team as well as colleagues that I turn to. I couldn't do this on my own. I couldn't. Even, I know that you've probably seen we feature coffee shops on our podcast. We focus on really empowering and highlighting coffee shops who are owned by people of color because coffee holds a dear place to my heart. Not only does it wake me up in the morning, but the smell reminds me of my upbringing. My grandmother would make cafecito, my mom would make cafecito, and it was something we would gather together and we would chat and we would talk about what we did during the weekend, just life. And I remember going to breakfast, and my mom and my grandma would always order their coffee, and that smell. I still remember all those experiences. So I was like, how am I gonna not only honor my background in mental health, but also my love for coffee and what it represents to me? I was like, well, let's uplift all these other entrepreneurs who are, they're trying to build their businesses. So I've gone to farmers markets to see Latin-owned coffee shops, and I make sure that I shout them out on my Instagram page because I'm trying to, build community in different areas. So the mental health field, I'm trying to build community because I think it's so important. So the coffee shops, so just like my guest, I handpick the coffee shops that we feature because coffee, once again, is super important to me. It ties me back to my roots. And so you'll see in the upcoming season, a little teaser, we're actually going to be interviewing a coffee roaster who is a person of color who has also, as an entrepreneur, stepped outside the box. So I'm learning so much now, even from meeting these coffee roasters around entrepreneurship, discrimination, racism, having to step outside of the box and building their business because there's so many coffee shops out there. What makes them special, right? So I'm learning from them, like, how are they choosing their niche with coffee and what continues to push them. Right, and where does their coffee come from? Like, what's the message behind that? So, I think I'm really privileged. I'm blessed that I have people like my production team who are teaching me about podcasting. I have people who are teaching me about therapy with all my colleagues, and now I have people who are teaching me about coffee. My goodness, and my family who taught me about entrepreneurship. So I've been blessed and privileged to have all this amazing community helping me get up Cringe Mountain so that I can eventually be on Cool Land, right? I know that as my viewers, you probably see, like, once again, that she has it all together. Well, I wouldn't be able to paint this picture because, first of all, I don't have it all together, but I wouldn't be able to do it all without all these people that I've just mentioned because it takes a community, it takes having support to get you through the hard parts of this journey of being an entrepreneur. So, before we wrap up this Mother's Day episode, I want to talk a little bit about mentorship because I feel that mentorship is so important. I've had really great mentors help me as I've been in this space of, being a therapist and business owner, so that I feel that that's also a way that I want to give back is being able to help others who are just starting off, whether it's their practice as a EMD. So I'm EMDR certified and an EMDR consultant. So one of the reasons why, and to let you guys know, there's like a handful of Latin EMDR approved consultants. So that also, inspired me to get my hours and become an approved consultant. So in my journey to one of the things that I wanna do is I want to be able to be a mentor for those new entrepreneurs and therapists and, who are just starting off, who are wanting to quit and who don't have maybe as much of the support that I have, that I've been privileged to, is I wanna be able to be that for others. I wanna be able for them to have a space for them to be like, "This is so hard. This sucks. Like, I wanna give up." What did you do, Elizabeth, that, as you were waiting to get on insurance panels or to get clients, like what got you through that? And I want to be able to be that for somebody. And, I also provide private practice consultations. So that's been a space where I've been able to provide mentorship to other therapists. I provide EMDR consultations. So other colleagues who are wanting to pursue their become approved consultants themselves or consultants in training. I've been able to mentor in that way. And I have some colleagues who are just also like, Elizabeth, how did you start your business? Like, what led you to decide to open a private practice and what were some of the first steps? So I've been able to do that as well because, in the or in at least in the Latinx community, we're not taught that. I wasn't taught in grad school to open a private practice. So I want to, for those who do end up coming to me and talking to me, I want to be able to say, you know what? Nobody, I learned along the way. It was a very difficult process, but it doesn't have to be difficult for you. Let me help and support you and let me even hold space for you when you're wanting to quit. So I think mentorship continues to keep me going. I'm hoping at one point I get good at this podcasting thing so that I'm also able to inspire other, whether it's therapists or anybody who else is who's wanting to enter the world of podcasting. So they're able to start their own podcast and share, their valuable knowledge that they have too. I'm not quite there yet. I'm hoping to be there someday, but right now, I'm learning from the best, which is my team, and they're mentoring me. The importance of mentorship for me is just being able to help others who are currently struggling so that they are able to overcome some of their imposter syndrome. So, as we wrap up our episode today, I'd like to talk to all my mothers out there who are maybe they're new mothers, they have adolescents, grown adult kiddos, but who are still contemplating, starting their business or starting a new career. I just want to speak to you because I know how hard it is. So I want you guys to know to not give up, to really surround yourself with people that motivate you, who inspire you. Find a mentor, find somebody that you can feel comfortable being vulnerable about this because motherhood in itself is really hard. You're faced with so many different challenges as a mother, right? Raising this little human being that they don't give us a book around how to parent. We're learning along the way. So know that you're already doing enough. You're already raising this little human being. For me personally, I think my son has also taught me some entrepreneurship skills. Like he's taught me patience, he's taught me boundaries, he's taught me vulnerability. He's taught me, right? Like I see him walking and he falls and then he just picks himself up. He's taught me perseverance. So I think our children already teach us a lot. We have all those skills. It's just now a matter of how do I implement all these skills that this little human being has taught me into the workforce, right? So know that you already have a lot of these skills. You don't need a degree. It's helpful, absolutely. It's very helpful. Nobody can take your education away. But if you're just starting and just, you know what, I have a passion for party planning, or I have a passion for, I've been seeing a lot of bakers just posting their stuff on social media and their businesses are booming. Just find what really fires you, what really ignites that fire inside of you, and just go with it. You already have all the skills that you need. It's just a matter of being comfortable with taking risks, being able to acknowledge when things are getting to be too much. Because as a mother, I know really quick that if I have a long day at home at work, that when I go home, I have to take that therapist hat, that business hat off and be a mom. And I need to make sure that I know that I have to be fully present for this little person so that I can play with him and I can teach him all the skills. And, I make mistakes. I'm not, I'm only human. But one thing I'm learning is holding myself accountable, knowing that, hey, I need to work and I need to provide for my son. But, I make mistakes and I might come home and I'm really tired and I might not have all the energy to play with him. He's 2, but I make sure I even talk to him. I'm like, we're going tomorrow. I promise, like, we're going to do whatever you want. And I do, I'm human. I don't have all the energy in the world. So I have, even as little as 2, I have all these conversations with him because I know I'm modeling that to him and I know he hears me and I know he listens to me. And so, as once again, going back to my mothers out there, is that, you know, like Beyonce says, girls rule the world. We really do. We give birth. We're expected within, 3 months to go back into the workforce, right? And to balance this, I'm fortunate enough that I have my private practice, that I have my flexibility, but other moms have to go back 9 to 5. 5 days a week, sometimes more. Expected to be good partners. We're expected to be good daughters or sons, and that we're not going to have it all together. And that being okay with that, being okay that maybe my therapist gets more attention today, but making sure that maybe tomorrow my mom gets a little bit more, and trying to fill up my own personal glass too, because I need to practice self-care too. That's something that I'm starting to finally practice after my son, now him being 2, he's a little bit more self-sufficient, that I'm able to now, like, hey, tell my husband, I need to go to that workout class because if I don't, I'm going to be cranky for the rest of the evening. I just saw 8 clients, so I need to go and decompress or go and get that massage that I haven't been able to get because I've been taking care of my son. So making sure that I'm also practicing, prioritizing my self-care. So once again, I'm not a master of it, but I just know that these are things that I'm working on and that I'm not going to give up on. So, moms, you've given birth, you are running a household, you know, you can do it. You definitely can. You can definitely use all the skills that you already have to make your dreams come true, as cliche as that sounds, but it's true. We are so powerful as women. Um, we can accomplish so much. There's this strength that we have, and if you surround yourself with the right women, man, we're unstoppable. We really are, and I've been lucky enough to find that community of women that just continue to push me, and I continue to push them back. I tell my team all the time, like, we're doing big things, even though we're just starting, we are. Because sometimes we need to hear it ourselves because we're our worst critic. So, moms out there, just because once again you don't have it all together doesn't mean you can't start somewhere. Start with just opening up that social media page. Start with just a little link tree. Start with something. Go to that farmer's market, go to, flea market. Do whatever you need to do to just start. And you know what? You'll find your way. The universe always finds a way to get you where you need to be. So just you'll find your way. But just don't give up. Because we need to see more people of color out there in this entrepreneurial place. So don't give up. We are so strong, and I hope this episode inspired you in some way to whether it's to maybe go to therapy, to maybe start your own business, to maybe practice a little bit of self-care, to practice more being more empathetic towards yourself, or even just to say, hey, like, I'm really struggling with just balancing all these roles. So I hope that you take something away from this Mother's Day episode because um, I'm learning once again that being in front of this camera, every time I do it, it gets a little bit easier every time. So, and you as my audience, I learn from you every time you post a review on YouTube or every time you write a comment on Instagram. I learned something new. I learned there's places where I need to make improvement, or hey, you might have really liked one of my podcast episodes. So just know that I know and I'm seeing all of you, and you guys make this work so much fun. And I hope you guys continue to follow me on this new journey that I'm taking on as with Cafecito y Calidad. Definitely subscribe to us. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram at Calidad Holistic Wellness and Cafecito y Calidad podcast. My website is calidadholisticwellness.com. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So you can find us at all these places. So definitely write a review, subscribe, and even send us a DM on Instagram just to say hi. You guys are important to us.